Hello YouTube, this is Dazza the Cameraman. Today is Monday, April 22nd, 2019, and this is a follow-up to some videos that I did a month or two ago regarding Mr. Thrive and Survive and his videos claiming that they had filmed rotation of the moon that shouldn't be happening, which of course we explained was normal field rotation. Now when they were looking at some of their videos, Mr. Thrive and Survive and his friend Mike Boll claimed that they saw a sudden lurch in rotation of the moon. This is almost 2 months later since the video was filmed now, and for 2 months I've been asking for the original video files rather than these haphazardly cropped Photoshop copy and paste that rich Mr. Thrive and Survive is showing here. And 2 months later I'm still waiting. Now it seemed that there was some hope when Mike Boll recently posted some videos, which we're going to look at now, including this most recent one, answering Lunar Leap Questions Part 2, uploaded by Mike Boll, published on April 21, 2019. And you can see that the opening scene is a quote of me stating, "Isn't it funny how at the exact moment the moon suddenly rotates, it also zooms out? What an amazing coincidence." And also a quote from my good friend Astronomy Live, who stated, "Wow, funny how the moon's size suddenly changed in the image as well, almost like you adjusted the camera and bumped it." And all along, Astronomy Live and I and others have been saying that the camera was bumped, it was manipulated in some way. Obviously the moon didn't suddenly rotate in the sky. But anyway, Mike Boll gives his excuses in this video, and I'll post a link in the description area, and we can see that he's explaining about what's happening as he's taking his time-lapse videos. He's explaining about how when he decides to zoom in or zoom out, he stops the time-lapse, because the thing is with the P900, and I think with P1000 as well, you cannot zoom in or zoom out or making any adjustments to the camera while it is taking a time-lapse. You have to stop the time-lapse sequence, adjust the camera, and then restart the time-lapse. And as I stated, it seemed very interesting that the moon suddenly rotated at exactly the same time that the image was zoomed out. So let's have a look at the reply that I've posted under Mike's video, and then we're going to look at another little bit of Rich's images towards the end and some comments I left for him. So I'll read out my reply to Mike Boll here. "Thank you for posting this video, Mike Boll. You have helped to confirm my suspicions. Despite the assurances given in your video, you cannot prove that you did not accidentally knock your camera at the time you made the adjustment to the zoom, or whatever other reason you stopped the time-lapse from running, as you have admitted doing. Knocking the camera is very easy to do, especially when filming in the dark, even under moonlight, while using the tracking mount's hand controller, checking the cameras, checking your phone, checking the time, etc., and moving your hands around. I know this is easy to do because I have knocked the camera like this myself and kicked myself for ruining the shot. Both of your cameras were ultimately mounted on ball joint mounts, which were attached to your motorized tracking mount. There are at least 2 scenarios where a camera can easily be rotated when accidentally knocked. One, when the camera, such as a DSLR camera, is used at prime focus and mounted in place of the telescope eyepiece. And 2, when the camera is mounted on a ball joint mount, just as both of your cameras were. Ball joint mounts allow for easy movement and rotation in any direction. Just as I and Astronomy Live have pointed out, the fact that the alleged rotation occurs at exactly the same time that you zoom out serves to prove that the camera was indeed manipulated. If you say you didn't rotate the camera, maybe your good friend Rich, Mr. Thrive and Survive, accidentally bumped the camera and was too embarrassed to admit it. Either way, the camera was definitely rotated and zoomed. Your own video clearly shows this. There can be no denying that the rotation occurs at the same time as the zoom, and as the P900 owner, I know that you can't adjust the zoom while the time-lapse is running. You have to stop the time-lapse. Stopping the time-lapse means handling the camera and the risk of knocking it. And to make matters worse, you have admitted that you deleted the original time-lapse videos. So you cannot provide the original RAW files for your videos, and you therefore also cannot provide the screenshot I requested of the video files showing date, time, and duration of each time-lapse video sequence. The time-lapse video files are not huge files. I am astounded that you did not save them, even as a copy on your computer or storage device. We have been waiting now for 2 months for the raw files and metadata, etc. Despite recent assurances that you were, quote, working on it, we now find that your raw files no longer exist. I can't say I'm surprised, especially when MrThriveAndSutvive is involved. I'm still waiting to see his raw video or photos along with the metadata. Next, I expect he will say he deleted his too. Don't you think that astronomers, amateur and professional, astrophotographers, and people watching the moon from all over the globe, well, half of it anyway, would notice if the moon suddenly lurched several degrees in rotation? And why is the moon now right back to the correct orientation when checked with the correctly aligned camera and equatorial orientation? Please don't say it was a glitch in the moon hologram. Your camera was rotated, and this is evidenced in your video along with a sudden change of zoom. And you don't have a continuous raw video or time-lapse to prove otherwise. If it wasn't you who bumped the camera, then blame Rich, lol. Your camera was rotated. Now, another question that I meant to ask Mike, and I'll ask it now, is you stated that your time-lapses were filmed over several hours. Well, of course, the P900 will only run for maybe 2 or 3 hours. So I'm just wondering at what point did you change the batteries? I'm assuming you changed the batteries at some stage, so maybe you can answer that question. Now, towards the end of Mike's video, he plays a clip from Rich's video, MrThriveAndSutvive, and he makes a statement that Rich didn't mess with the zoom. Well, indeed, we see that the zoom isn't changing, but let's take a look. So here is the moon bouncing all around, as we saw before, but at least it's not zooming in and out. And pre-jump, and here it comes, bang! Mike, why did the moon suddenly jump up in the air like that? Hey, maybe the moon not only suddenly rotated, it also suddenly jumped sideways in space. Okay, so now we look at both time lapses side by side, yet we've got no timestamps to verify the continuity or the synchronicity of the two videos. And here it comes in 3, 2, 1, jump. There is the jump. He plays it back a little bit slower, so we can see the rotation of Mike's and Rich's video. There it is. They both rotate to the left there. And finally he plays it again very slow for us. And there it is, the rotation. Now I'm just going to loop that last bit a few times so that we can clearly see the rotation and the jump that we see there. So as we watch this replay of the rotation, not only do we see on the right that Mike's moon is jumping backwards and forwards, we also see that Rich's moon is jumping up and down, so clearly not continuous footage from either. But wait, there's more. Let's take a look at the images in more detail from Mike's video. This one is the pre-jump comparison, and this one is the post-jump comparison. So again, switching between them, we can see the apparent rotation. So let's do a bit of analysis on this, and first of all I'm going to use the magic wand to capture a copy of the moon on the left here. This is from Rich's image on the left. I'm going to copy that and I'm going to paste it and drag it over to the right so we can compare it with Mike's image. Now let's stretch it out. I'm keeping the aspect the same by holding the shift key there. And we can see that the orientation is exactly the same. We can see this little crater on the side there, on the left hand side, and we can see the Sea of Crisis up on the top there, the one that they always point out, is orientated exactly the same way in the pre-jump image. So what I'm saying is that Rich's image on the left agrees exactly with the orientation of Mike's image on the right. Now let's do the same thing with the post-jump image. So once again I'm going to use the magic wand and select Rich's image on the left. I'm going to copy it, Control C, I'm going to paste it, Control V, I'm going to drag it over, and we're going to compare that with Mike's image on the right. Let's make it the same size, and we can see a problem here because obviously the orientation is different. Remember that this is post-jump and they should be showing exactly the same angle if the videos were synchronous. Obviously there is a problem here. Let's look at this again by flicking backwards and forwards between the two comparison images. Here with the blink test comparison we can clearly see that the orientation is different. They should both agree. The pre-jump images were exactly the same, but the post-jump images show a discrepancy in the rotation. So Mike, I think you need to address that, and you really need to be able to present the raw images, the raw videos, which you now tell me do not exist anymore because you deleted them. You need to be able to show timestamps so that we know that the two videos are actually running synchronously. As it happens, what you have presented are time-lapse videos full of holes, full of breaks, with rotations. You've stopped the camera multiple times. You've zoomed in and out. You've obviously adjusted the camera. And I think it's fair to say that we were right all along in our conclusion that the camera had been bumped. You've admitted yourself that the camera went off at times, and that you've adjusted the camera, and even the rotation shown in Rich's images on the left do not agree with the rotation shown on your images on the right. Thank you for watching.